Fertility declines are making headlines globally. From China, the Republic of Korea and Japan, to Canada, the United States and beyond, both developed and developing countries are grappling with sharply declining birth rates. A recent report by the UN Population Fund reveals that the real fertility crisis, however, facing the world is not underpopulation, but a crisis of reproductive agency. The report finds that 1 in 5 people around the world are unable to have the number of children they would want. This isn't due to a lack of desire for parenthood, but rather the soaring costs of raising children, job insecurity, housing challenges, concerns over the state of the world, and the lack of a suitable partner. Why are so many young people unable to fulfill their family goals? How to empower young people to make informed, responsible decisions about the number, timing and spacing of their children? What role should society play? I had an exclusive interview with Dr Natalia Kanem, former UNFPA Executive Director. Let's take a listen. The UNFPA partnering up with China to help some third parties or third countries. Can you give us one concrete example, for instance, how that is done, what is being done?
Oh, well, yes, and there are many wonderful examples. UNFPA is present in 151 countries of the world, and many of them are least developed countries. So in a place like Mozambique, we've been cooperating with China, leveraging resources and inviting others to join us on programs that bring family planning to the doorstep of a woman who requires it. We're also working in Pacific regions to make sure that safe birth is possible, but also to help the government offices track statistics better. Many countries really don't have the facility or the technology that you enjoy here in China, and so even counting who needs help, is the census modernized or not? These are areas of importance when you're trying to plan properly. When you plan properly, you can actually save money, you can actually reach more people at scale. So South-South and triangular cooperation is a learning exchange. It helps a developing country like China to be able to provide lessons that you've learned here. Your maternal death rate shrank, hugely in the period that we're discussing, and that's what we'd like to see everywhere.
It's interesting you use the word exchange. It's not a one-way China giving or China sharing. What do you say is on the part of China that it's receiving on its end? Not resources, I'm sure, but what is China gaining out of the experience?
Well, China is very well networked. For example, in academic communities right now, issues of changing societies. Robots are not going to be the answer to aging society issues. So you really have to partner together in order to figure out good solutions. Right now, when it comes to population and demography, China is sharing, learning from, but I think also countries are learning from here. Japan and Korea come to mind because with UNFPA, we've been spearheading research on how can we do better in terms of looking at younger and older people's cooperation, pension plans, for example, and the ability to have safe childcare is one of the big reasons that people hesitate to have another child. So we do need more research and more academic cooperation, and China is also very much part and parcel of that equation. I also think right now a lot boils down to economics. We're living in a turbulent time. Right. And so we are sharing lessons in terms of how can you be getting the same results by doing things in a more organized way. So there's lots of mutual cooperation. And for me, it's really important that women be able to take their role in terms of shaping societies. And here too, I think the discussion about these dynamics is picking up, but there's always a resistance, and UNFPA would like to make it easier for people to have conversations about sexual and reproductive health and rights, to be able to discuss with young people what's going to make them more comfortable in their life sphere, getting that education that's so important. So there are lots of examples, and for UNFPA and for the United Nations, the partnership with China is very key.
Well, certainly a lot is still pending. A lot of work still needs to be done.
Yes.
Especially at this turning point where I have a daughter too. I have parents, I have a daughter, so I know
Yes.
how it feels to be a mother and to be a teen. I don't know, I can guess that it's a very different period of time. So to talk to the young people, to make them understand the messages you want to break out of the question list, what would you tell to a teenage in China or in Africa, Tanzania, Mozambique, I don't know. What would you say to them so that they can have the kind of opportunities and the awareness about the rights that they enjoy, that they need to defend, and also have health and success later in life?
Well, that's a great question, and I would say two things. First and foremost, young people need to believe in themselves and to assert their need for discussion and consent. A lot of what I speak to young people about is being true to your values. And for boys and girls, it's very important to have conversations, to know about consent. I also think that I say to young people, aim for the stars. We will be a nurturing community for you. We want to help you fulfill your dreams. And when I ask young people about their dreams, it's so similar all around the world.
Right.
Everybody wants to not just have financial security, but to have the respect of their community, to be educated and to know that you're going to do well. And one constant for young people, and I alluded to this earlier, they're very kind. They want the planet to survive. They care about the environment. They care about each other. So I always encourage them to look at that bright side of yourself and make your contribution so that the planet becomes a better place.
I guess the health part is extremely important, not just physical health, but also, health on all different levels. Again, I'm going to mention this because this is very important. How do you keep so fit, open-minded, energetic at this age? What would advise? Because there are a lot of people looking for answers at this moment, at an early age, which would actually affect their overall well-being.
Part of my devotion to young people is that people invested in me when I was young. And having just turned 70 last year, I think it's very exciting to be able to transfer some of the lessons that I've learned, including here when I attended the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing, which we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of worldwide. The importance of knowing yourself and also being kind to yourself cannot be overemphasized. I think there's so many pressures on young people today, not just academic, but also socially. Right. Social media can have an impact that's positive, but also can be negative. And one thing that I'm very concerned about is the state of mental health. Mental health is finally taking its place, no longer taboo, to speak about psychological difficulties which everyone goes through during their life course. So for me, I think it's been very important to have that time to get to know myself, to know my limits. Yes, there can be wonderful achievements if you work 24/7, but you should take your downtime. I advocate for parental leave so that men as well as women can have time to be with that young baby, for adoptive families to also have that same privilege. I think for young people too, I insist that the social media space should be a lot less aggressive and a lot more kind. And it's important for young women in particular, who can have a negative reaction if they feel bullied online, to know that they always have recourse and that they should be respected, whether in real life or on the web. UNFPA is a pioneer in this regard.
Dr. Kanem, the international development cause is faced with unprecedented challenges, the turbulence, the social media. There's a lot of funding anxiety, let's put it this way. What about UNFPA, and how is your organization navigating the challenge?
Well, this is a great question because we've seen just this year unprecedented upheaval in the international aid space. And the people who suffer, unfortunately, are the women and girls in the least developed countries. UNFPA has been speaking out about the need to really protect, again, women and adolescent girls in humanitarian situations. The abrupt nature of withdrawal of funding with no time to prepare has really created disastrous implications all over the world, but I will signal places like Afghanistan, where we've had to close our maternity clinics overnight. In a lot of the poorer communities where we work in Asia, Africa, Latin America, the work of UNFPA has had to be curtailed. Our Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has led the United Nations in doing two things. One is react and make sure that we protect communities. So we're doing our best under difficult circumstances. But the other thing that our Secretary General really expects is for the United Nations to cooperate with countries to be much more efficient. And maybe we will have to narrow the scope of what we do in order to do it well. For UNFPA, our main aims are to make sure that, first and foremost, we can deliver aid when necessary in communities to protect women who are giving childbirth and make sure that the prenatal period is supported. We also have what we call dignity kits. We respond, for example, where there's a flood or a cyclone or conflict. And very often the private needs of women and girls are not catered for. So UNFPA procures, including with China's help, a lot of equipments and sanitary needs that women and girls will require. We also speak up in terms of the importance of dialogue and peace. When you have disagreements, hopefully dialogue will be the road to figure out what to do. And I think here it's very important to have our leading nations of the United Nations, of which China, of course, is one, to be those exemplars of using dialogue to solve human problems. So we really appreciate that example.
Has China been forthcoming in terms of providing the aid that UNFPA or UN calls for needs in general, according to your interaction?
Oh, no, China is a leader when it comes to cooperation, especially with other developing countries. And UNFPA has been fortunate to be able to deliver the results that China expects. And so we have a long period of mutual cooperation. It's been very beneficial and includes the South-South and triangular cooperation that I mentioned earlier. I think it will be an exciting period ahead, made much more difficult by the retraction of funds. But I have to keep my optimism. I have to hope that the world will stand with some of the people in greatest needs. And when I think about a 10-year-old girl growing up in a community who is trying to get her education and take her place in the world, that example of international solidarity is really, really a treasure for the world.
Your hope is shared.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us your insights. It's been a pleasure.
All the best.
Thank you.